And for those of you who are joining us via Zoom, we did, I think, make photocopies of the hymns with the music, and that is on the website right next to the order of service if you go to the website and wanted to download the music so you can sing along with us. And now I invite us to light our chalice together. Do I have some kiddos that want to come up and help me with that? All right. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. All right, can those of you on Zoom still hear me? Okay, good. I am going to turn this to the owl now and invite Elizabeth to come up and offer the time for all ages.
Well, good morning. So I am going to be talking with the adults today about a nonviolent army of people from all over the world who go all over the world and help protect people and work for peace. And this group is called Nonviolent Peace Force, and they go to really dangerous places, but they never carry guns. They just use their minds and their hearts to connect with people and work for peace. And one of the ways that they work for peace can be called the two hands of nonviolence. A lady named Barbara Deming came up with this idea. And the first hand looks like this. So if you were maybe about to cross the street and someone saw a car coming and they held their hand up like that, what would you think that would mean? Stop, exactly. So the first hand is saying if someone is being mean to us or to someone else, stop what you're doing. And then the second hand of nonviolence looks like this. So it's nice. If my hand was closed like that, you might think I was angry or not open to you, but it's open. And so the second hand is saying, I'm open to you. Even if I'm telling you to stop what you're doing, I'm open to you as a person, and I'm trying to find what's good in you. So I'm going to tell you guys a true story about one of the guys who started Nonviolent Peace Force and how he used the two hands of nonviolence for the first time when he was 7 years old. His name is David Hartsoe, and now he's about 80 years old. But when he was 7 years old, he lived in a state called Iowa. Have you guys been there before? No? Okay. Well, it's cold in Iowa in the wintertime, even colder than here in Colorado. And so he was walking home from school on a cold winter day, walking through a park, and a group of older boys came and they started throwing balls of ice at him. They weren't even snowballs, they were ice balls. So that was kind of hurting him. And so the first hand of nonviolence is stop what you're doing. So he was walking along And he didn't actually hold up his hand, but this is kind of how he did it. He was walking along and he stopped walking and he stood tall and he looked at them. And he was thinking he wanted to let those boys know that he wasn't afraid of them. And so he was letting them know with his body language that he wanted them to stop what they were doing. And then the second hand is reaching out and for what's good in a person. And so he said, I'd like to be your friend, and I certainly don't have anything against you guys. And the older boys, they threw a few more balls of ice, but then they got bored because they could see they weren't making him afraid, and they also couldn't get him to fight with them. So they got bored and they left. And David had been paying attention to which boy was leading the group. And on a different day, he reached out to that boy as a friend, and they did become good friends. So that is a true story about how one person used the two hands of nonviolence. Stop. I'm reaching out to you. And the first time he used them to stand up for himself, but then later, when he got older, he used them to help protect other people from harm. So I think that it sounds simple, but it's pretty hard to do. But I think that the more that we can learn how to do that, it can help create a better world. So you guys can go downstairs if you like now with Wendy and Melody. Thank you. Before I read our centering words, I want to mention that this service today is part of a yearly worldwide movement called Campaign Nonviolence Action Days. Oh, okay. I don't need to unmute myself, do I? No. Okay. Every fall for 2 weeks between the International Day of Peace and the International Day of Nonviolence, people around the world are planning different actions to promote a culture of active nonviolence. There are over 4,500 events planned this year. And last year, there are over 4,000 events throughout the world and over 60,000 people participated. So our centering words are from the Nonviolent Peace Force 2021 through 2025 strategic plan. There is a growing recognition that many of the existential threats the world is facing today are rooted in a mechanistic worldview or paradigm. Martin Luther King called this our thing-oriented civilization. It is a story of separation of humans from nature, of humans from each other through divisions of class, religion, race, and gender, and of the self from our integral, interconnected being. It has led us to extract, exterminate, and push species, cultures, and communities to extinction, while dividing us as a society and alienating us from our humanity. It separates the powerful from the consequences of their actions. The world needs to be able to tell a different story if it is to survive, a story of interdependence, purpose, and sufficiency, a person and planet-oriented civilization. Pioneers across the world are working to bring this new story to life. The shift from retributive justice to restorative justice, or from industrial agriculture to agroecology, is in essence a shift from separation to interdependence. We believe it is time for a similar shift in the field of security. We believe that unarmed civilian protection can contribute to such a shift. Unarmed civilian protection presents a new story of security, a story in which security can be experienced through greater connectivity with the enemy other. Over the next 5 years and beyond, we will work to bring this story to life, and we will not stop there. We will reach out to pioneers in other fields of practice who tell a similar story, so that these similar stories can be woven together into a roadmap that can guide the global community in meeting its existential threats with courage and compassion.
This community of care is created through our work and time together, our commitment to one another. This is our covenant, to walk together in loving fellowship, to share our hopes and values. As we pass these baskets, we thank you for your generous gifts, which support the work of this religious community and Unitarian Universalism in the world at large. As a reflection of our values, we are pleased to participate in the Change for Change program. The coins you place in today's basket will support the work of nonprofits in and around the Grand Valley. With hearts of gratitude, we will now receive today's offering, and I invite Peg up to teach us and remind us how to sing one of our favorite hymns as we receive today's offering, the Meditation on Breathing.
It's in the Teal book, page 1009. It's got
Is
three
there-
parts to it.
Elizabeth, do you have the microphone?
So there's 3 parts to it, and it's such a beautiful meditation that I would like to do it this way. We'll all start out with the baseline. It's the breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, in. And there's a repeat sign at the end, so we'll do that twice. And then the top line, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. We'll all sing that and repeat it, so it's like singing it twice. And then I'm going to ask Liz maybe to come up and help me out, and Lance to come up and help me out. Lance is going to be the one who continues the breathe in, breathe out. And so after we sing the top line, Lance will start the breathe in, breathe out again. Anyone who wants to join him, just sing the breathe in, breathe out. That's the easy part. I will continue the top line, and then Liz will do the middle line. So anyone who wants to join Liz, when she comes in with that, join Liz. And then I will cut us off when we've sung it long enough. But we'll all start out with breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. First line. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
This congregation is a community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to its life, we affirm our lives within it. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share this within. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share this within.
It was March 1999 at The Hague, Netherlands. Mel Duncan was feeling frustrated. The longtime peace activist had traveled all the way to The Hague from Minnesota so that he could share an idea at an international peace conference. During a stay at Thich Nhat Hanh's meditation retreat, Plum Village, Mel had come up with the idea of creating an international nonviolent peace army. The idea of a nonviolent peace army was not new. Mahatma Gandhi had verbalized the idea of a Shanti Sena, or peace army, and in what was later to become Pakistan, Abdul Ghaffar Khan, had been inspired by Gandhi to raise a nonviolent army of 80,000 people called the Hudai Hitmagars. Other groups, such as Peace Brigades International, had proven the power of what has been come to be known as unarmed civilian protection. But Mel's vision was for something international, large-scale, and professional. Mel had written 50 pages of details about how this peace army would operate and was waiting for a chance to share them. But 9,000 people had shown up at this peace conference, almost twice as many as what was expected. And Mel could not get a word in. Let's listen in to a phone conversation the first night of the conference between Mel and his wife, Georgia.
You know, people have given me money for this idea, but I can't get a foothold. I can't talk to anybody. I could stand on a chair and yell, and I'll barely be heard above the din.
Well, then just be quiet and listen.
So the next day, Mel resolved to follow Georgia's advice. And lo and behold, a man Mel had never met got up in front of a packed room and shared just the same idea that Mel had wanted to share. Mel pushed himself through the crowd, introduced himself to that man, and said,
If you're serious about what you just said, we need to go out in the hall and start organizing. We only have a few more days here.
The other man was David Hartsoe, and that was the birth of Nonviolent Peace Force. But before we go forward with the story of Nonviolent Peace Force, let's back up to what brought the other man, David Hartsoe, to that momentous conference at The Hague. Like Mel, David had been a lifelong activist. David had been involved in the civil rights movement in the United States and had traveled all over the world trying to build bridges and raise awareness about our common humanity and the horrible human rights violations that were occurring around the world. David had been heartbroken by the outbreak of violence in what had been Yugoslavia and had spent the previous 3 years visiting the area, witnessing the suffering and violence, but also many grassroots peace efforts. From 1996 to 1998, David had spent much time and energy in attempting to bring to the attention of the world a massive nonviolent movement of Albanians in Kosovo. Members of the movement were begging for support, such as the unarmed presence of international supporters or pressure on the Serbian government, similar to the international sanctions that had been used against the apartheid regime in South Africa. The international community largely ignored these demands until a few people from the formerly nonviolent movement formed a violent guerrilla group, at which point the CIA and the US military supported their armed struggle. The situation exploded and NATO began bombing. At the time of the International Peace Conference at The Hague, David Hartsoe was leading a 5-hour workshop every day of the peace conference, explaining the situation in Kosovo. During a panel discussion that Mel Duncan was listening to, David mentioned his vision of an international nonviolent peace army. As David wrote in his autobiography, the struggle in Kosovo had given birth to this vision that I had been pondering for quite some time. That dire situation provided strong motivation to get the Nonviolent Peace Force off the ground. I remain convinced that had the international community rallied around the nonviolent movement there, a peaceful resolution could have been reached and costly military conflict averted. Costly in the loss of lives, in the billions of dollars expended, and in the escalated ethnic hatred and mistrust that will be the legacy of Kosovo for years to come. Mel and David went out in the hall and began developing the idea together that was to become the group called Nonviolent Peace Force. They spent the next 3 years traveling around the world, listening to people living in areas of violent conflict, networking, learning about what had worked and what had not worked in the past in the field of unarmed civilian protection. Nonviolent Peace Force was officially launched in December 2002. In the 20 years since its founding, Nonviolent Peace Force has been endorsed by 9 Nobel Peace Prize laureates and has been granted special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Jane Goodall has said that she carried a photo of the Nonviolent Peace Force team in her briefcase to remind herself that, however terrible things seem, there is a powerful source for good in a world gone mad. In the end, the indomitable human spirit will prevail. Nonviolent Peace Force is currently involved in 8 countries around the world, including South Sudan, Myanmar, Iraq, Thailand, United States, Philippines, and as of February this year, Ukraine. The best way to get some feeling for the work of Nonviolent Peace Force is to hear directly from the voices of people who have served in it. I would like to share with you 2 stories from members of Nonviolent Peace Force. The first story is from Mindanao, Philippines. Carmen Lazon told a story on a radio interview about how there had been violence one year during a school graduation amongst armed factions attending their children's graduation. After the violent graduation, Nonviolent Peace Force had engaged in communication with the school, the community, and the armed groups. The next year, they stationed a patrol of unarmed members wearing their vests that said Nonviolent Peace Force all around the school. Nonviolent Peace Force would not allow armed groups to get inside the school grounds. The graduation proceeded peacefully and successfully, and this success helped build up the confidence and sense of safety of all community members. I would like to play a clip from the interview immediately following that story on the Meta Center's radio show called Nonviolence Radio.
Add something and add a question for you, because I've been in situations even at an airport going to a specific country where there were guns present in order to make people feel safe. That there were soldiers ready to threaten everybody. So can you talk to me about why unarmed protection then was more effective than having soldiers or even UN guards with guns saying that we are watching this graduation? Why was that more effective, or what was your experience there?
I think it's because the environment is really very hostile already. Mm-hmm. And when you add up to the violence again, I mean, it's really the concept of violence cannot be solved by another violence. So when you see that there are a lot of guns already proliferating, and that has become the normal thing, when there is something that is unarmed is something radical, and that makes people make a second look. Oh, that's something different. Like when you see everybody have been bearing arms in a community, and then you get to see all these unarmed people coming in, and they're not afraid at all, facing all those armed people. So somehow that makes you think.
Yeah. And,
There's something strange about that, and there's something powerful about that.
and you know what it makes me feel like is that if I were to see that, and I were to see that in order for somebody to feel safe, they have a gun, then so I would feel I need one of those to make me safe. But if I see women and
Somebody not.
other people that are doing protection work and they don't have a gun, and yet they're making people without other people feel safe and they're unarmed, I would feel like I want to do that too. How can I do that? How can I access that power within me? And have you ever been scared as a peacekeeper?
For myself, no.
You've never been scared. Wow.
No, not at all.
Now I would like to share another story which is told in this short video by a member of the Nonviolent Peace Force who served in South Sudan.
I grew up during the war. I stayed my entire life during the war. I remember asking my dad when I was 11 years old. I asked him, is this how we're going to live for the rest of our lives? And he did not answer me because he don't know, and he can't tell, because like he was not gonna say no, we're not gonna be like this in the rest of our life, because there was bombing every day, there's ground attack all the time, and he had been through this almost his entire life. So he cannot tell me that this is not how we're gonna be. But then when I grow up, I take this decision of like, no, we can't continue doing this. Like, we have to do something else. Like, because it's too much. It has been going on forever. I worked for Nonviolent Peace Force about 3.5 years, between 2011 to 2014, in South Sudan. I worked in different states. I worked in different projects, different conflict situations. You have to reach to people who are directly involved in this conflict. You have to reach to the most affected people, because if you don't reach them, for example, if you say, okay, I will go to the government, and government from this side and government from that side to solve this conflict will not be solved. Because these people on the grassroots level, they're the most who were directly affected. They were the one whose like relatives were killed. So they will still go and kill people from the other side. But we reach to both the government level and the grassroots. So we talk to them. We give them the tools to solve their own conflict. And the tools would be going and talking to these people. It is scary. It is hard. You cannot do it, because if you cross there, they will kill you. Well, the people from that other side, we also know them. We also go and talk to them. Then if people are too scared, we can accompany them. We can go with them as a protection to the other side. Because we're there, we're there, and those people knew us, then they will be like, okay, this is something that maybe we should do. Like, okay, nobody should bring guns or nobody should do anything, because these are non-violent Peace Force people. that are coming here, then they will eventually end up like talking to one another. After some of the work that we did with Nonviolent Peace Force, people came to respect me. Today, I would say I have a voice in my community.
Albert Einstein once said, quote, "We must be prepared to make heroic sacrifices for the cause of peace that we make ungrudgingly for the cause of war. There is no task that is more important or closer to my heart." End quote. The world is on edge with escalating conflicts around the globe and multiple nuclear-armed nations. As the climate crisis accelerates, the institution that consumes the most fossil fuels in the world is the US military. I feel that our very survival depends on turning wholeheartedly towards a path of solving conflict without war. Nonviolent Peace Force is a part of this path, but to realize its full potential, it still has massive room for growth. At the time that David Hartsoe wrote his autobiography in 2014, he said that Nonviolent Peace Force's annual costs were less than what the world's nations were collectively spending on war and military endeavors every 4 minutes. Nonviolent Peace Force has almost doubled in size since that time, so perhaps we could hazard a guess that now their annual costs are just less than 8 minutes of global military spending. If 8 minutes worth of global military spending redirected towards a group like Nonviolent Peace Force can accomplish as much as it has, imagine what 1 day's worth, or 1 month, or heaven forbid, half a year's worth. The solutions we need are under our feet if we can find the collective will to redirect our resources towards them. A first step towards growing these solutions is becoming aware they even exist. I hope that this worship service has given you a glimpse of one such solution, and I invite you to go to the Nonviolent Peace Force webpage to learn more. Thank you.
Let us go and sing our closing hymn this morning. I'm not sure what it is. Number 95, called There is More Love Somewhere.